Today's episode of Martha Bakes is all about bar cookies. Not only are these one-pan wonders rich and delicious, they're guaranteed to be bestsellers at your bake sale. Peanut butter and jelly bars, a new take on an old favorite. Dark chocolate spelt brownies, incorporating spelt flour, and pecan bars. These are my favorite pecan bars ever. And dried fruit and nut health bars, great for hiking. All of this on today's Martha Bakes. This recipe takes everyone's favorite childhood combination of peanut butter and jelly and transforms that combination into a sweet treat for all ages, a peanut butter and jelly bar. It's very easy to make. We're using a 9 by 13 inch metal rectangular pan. I'm buttering just the corners and a little bit of the bottom, just so the parchment liner sticks. And here's a way that we've always used parchment. If you use 2 pieces of parchment, cut it a little narrower than the length of the pan and put it like that, let it hang over the sides. And then this piece is a little narrower than the width of the pan, whichever way you're looking at it. And I've already buttered the corners, so nothing's gonna stick in the corners. And just go to your desk and get a few binder clips to hold the parchment securely in place. These work really, really well. So now you can butter the parchment with your soft butter and a brush. It goes very quickly, and the little pastry brush works very, very well. Do the sides. Now we can start with the batter. 3 cups of all-purpose unbleached flour. And you can just put this flour right into a large mixing bowl, and we'll sift it with your wire whisk. I like sifting this way because it works very well. 1½ teaspoons of salt. This is a ½ teaspoon measure, so I'll do it 3 times. And 1 teaspoon of fresh baking powder. Mix these together. And we're ready with the dry ingredients. Now, the moist ingredients, butter. 2 sticks of butter, 1 cup. Cream the butter, and notice it's at room temperature, so it creams quickly. If you put ice cold sticks of butter in your machine, it's going to take a long time to cream with the sugar. 1½ cups of granulated sugar. And I'm adding it in ½ cup increments. And add 2 large eggs. And now to this mixture, add your 2½ cups of peanut butter. And we are sliding the peanut butter into the bowl. Now, the reason this is sliding out of the bowl is because I prepared the bowl a little bit with a little vegetable spray. That helps these kinds of heavy mixtures like corn syrup, molasses, even peanut butter to slide out of the bowl. And it's a good tip. And now 1 teaspoon of good vanilla. Just add the dry ingredients on low. It will all incorporate. Sprinkle a little bit of flour in the pan. This will help the bar release. Make sure you coat the whole pan with the flour by doing this. That works well. 2/3 of this mixture goes right in the bottom, and spread it out as best you can into an even layer. So I like to use an offset spatula like this. Now, getting it even makes a pretty bar, so I advise you to do this carefully. So see, that's nice and flat. Now add 1½ cups of strawberry jam. You could use strawberry, you can use grape, and you could use apricot. Those are my three favorites for this particular bar. But I think strawberry is everybody's real favorite. So get this atop the entire layer. So now here, I'm getting my hands dusted with flour because now I'm going to just drop pieces of the remaining batter all over the top. And we're making our top layer, which will be then sprinkled with chopped peanuts. Looks good, don't you think? So make sure your oven's preheated now at 350 degrees. That's pretty much the layers, and now the peanuts themselves, sprinkled evenly all over the top. Try to cover up every little bit of jam. There. Right into the 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes. These have been well cooled. Remove the clips and see how nicely they come out of the pan? This is such a good recipe and a good technique. So utilize it when making something like this, because otherwise this could be a sticky mess. And how big would you like your square? This is very, very rich, so I suggest small little rectangles. So I always start in the middle, serrated knife, cuts beautifully. And let's see, I think I'll do this in thirds. That'll give me 6. I better do this in fourths. Having a long serrated knife like this also helps a lot. And there you have peanut butter and jelly, delectable bars. Looks really good, tastes even better. Enjoy. Now to chocolate. The addition of spelt flour creates a real chocolatey depth of flavor in these crackly topped brownies made with bittersweet chocolate, and we call them chocolate spelt brownies. They're not only enticing, but they are good for you, as good as chocolate brownies can be. So here's our chocolate, 6 ounces of bittersweet chocolate. When cut with a serrated knife, it just breaks up into beautiful small pieces, and these go right into a bain-marie, a bowl, over simmering water. And with the chocolate, add 1/2 cup, 1 stick of unsalted butter. Keep this over kind of a low flame. Now add 3/4 of a cup of light brown sugar, packed, and 3/4 of a cup of white granulated sugar, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And stir this until it is nicely mixed. Okay, so this comes off the heat, and now we're going to add some cocoa. And this is Dutch processed cocoa, and we need 1/4 cup. You want it rich and dark, and preferably the Dutch process, where most of the butter fat is removed. And now into this mixture, we're going to stir 3 eggs. 3. Make sure that the eggs are completely incorporated and that there are no pieces of white or yolk visible. It takes a little while for the eggs to become part of the mixture, but they do. Doesn't that look rich and chocolatey? Now, add your spelt flour. Spelt is a wheat flour. You can buy spelt flour in fine to coarse grind, and you can keep your spelt flour fresh by storing it in the freezer for up to 6 months. It is a very, very good substitute for all-purpose flour, and it has a sweet and mild taste, reminiscent to some people, including me, of toasted walnuts. And it produces a very fine and delicate crumb in the cake. We've added 1/4 cup, now we add another, and altogether 3/4 cup of flour. Now, a lot of people think that spelt flour is gluten-free. It is not gluten-free, but it is very low glycemic, and that's a very different thing. So there it is, really beautiful batter. So now fill your baking pan with mixture. And this is the kind of brownie I prefer. No nuts, just brownie batter. And it will get that nice shiny crust, which is what I look for in a well-made brownie. Try to get it all in an even layer and put this right into a 350-degree oven. When it's done, about 35 minutes, just check it with a cake tester, and the tester will come out nice and moist with maybe a little tiny bit of a moist crumb on it. Set your timer. So I'm just taking off the little clips and lifting out our gorgeous brownie. Now here's that crust I was talking about. This is what you look for in a well-made brownie. Now how big would you like your square? I keep asking that question. I think maybe thirds. So cut it in one direction. Boy, these look so mouth-wateringly good. Now people are very fussy about which brownie they get. That's mine, right in the middle. Very important. So good. You see a very fine, wet crumb, dense. That's a well-made brownie. And you'll be very surprised, as will your guests, that this was made with spelt flour. Enjoy. Now my favorite of all bars, pecan bars. Layers of texture to find these indulgent pecan bars with their crumbly brown sugar shortbread base and a chewy toffee-like topping. And of course, beautiful fresh pecans. Prepare, as I've shown you, with the parchment paper and butter, a 9 by 13-inch rectangular baking pan. Now in a stand mixer, cream 2 sticks of butter, that's 1 cup of butter, with 3/4 of a cup of light brown sugar packed, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Get that nice and creamy and add 3 cups of all-purpose unbleached flour. This is going to be pressed into the baking pan. It's basically a shortbread. And we're going to press this mixture into our baking pan. Good shortbread like this will look crumbly, but be able to be compacted into an even layer. Okay, so this is pretty even, and now you can take a offset spatula like this and really press down. Now dock it. Docking is making little air holes in a surface. Just allow steam to escape. There are such things as docking tools, which you could also employ in this task, but this works very well. So now, before you put this in the oven, put this right into the freezer or the refrigerator and chill until it is firm. So here's our beautiful crust. It was baked in a 375-degree oven for about 20 to 22 minutes. And it is a lovely, dense, beautiful base for our pecan bars. And now I'm melting a 1/2 cup, 1 stick of unsalted butter with 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of honey. This goes right in there. This is all the topping. I'm sure many of you have made pecan bars in the past. This just happens to be a really, really good recipe, which you will love. And a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. I've been keeping it under wraps with a moist cloth so it doesn't get too hard. And 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And there is one more ingredient, 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. So get all these ingredients incorporated. Gets nice and smooth and caramelly. And as soon as all of that is mixed together, 2 cups of the best pecans that you can find. Fresh, 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 very important. Nuts get rancid really quickly, and it is a shame to ruin a dessert, a salad, anything with a rancid nut. Be very careful. Taste the nuts if you possibly can before you buy them. And a half a teaspoon of vanilla. And turn the heat off. Stir the nuts well to coat. And this mixture goes right on top of your beautiful crust. Make sure you smooth this out so that the pecans are well distributed. Pecans, if you don't know it, are the edible fruit of a giant tree originating in the Mississippi River Valley in the United States. And they are turned into pecan pie, pecan tassies, all kinds of candies, garnishes for salads, and most importantly right now for pecan bars. When choosing pecans in their shell, look for nuts that are really heavy for their size and make sure that the nuts do not rattle when you shake them. They shouldn't have any holes or any cracks in them. And if you're going to shell your own pecans, look for a pecan cracker. Very different than the walnut cracker that you use in your hands or the lobster cracker. This is a cracker that puts pressure on both ends of the pecan, splitting the shell so that you get the perfect whole halves. Now get this into your 325-degree oven and bake until the filling is bubbling. That takes only 15 to 20 minutes. Set your timer. So I'm just loosening with a knife underneath so I know it comes apart from the parchment. Cut this into the bar size that you like. This is, again, a rich, rich bar. I'm using a serrated knife so that it neatly goes through the pecans. And you don't have to cut it all. You can cut half and save half for tomorrow. Now, that is a really pretty bar. And arrange it on a serving napkin, a serving platter. Buttery, caramelly, crunchy. It's actually really pretty. So they're beautifully arranged, ready to serve. These bars can be stored in an airtight container at room temperature for up to 1 week. I don't think they're going to last that long. They're sure to become your new favorite pecan bar. Enjoy. I'm chopping one last ingredient of many for what we call the dried fruit and nut health bars. These are delicious. And I love going hiking. And in Maine, I hike a lot with friends. And I always like to bring along a healthy snack. And these homemade energy bars are a better alternative to many of the packaged ones that you can find in the stores. They're filled with nuts and dried fruits. But the best part, there's no added sugar. It all comes from the natural dried fruits that are incorporated into the recipe. Now, we have dates, and we need 1 cup of dates. Pits have been removed. Very easy to remove a pit. Just spread the date in half and take out the pit. We want to soften these and puree them, so just cover with water and bring to a simmer. The date is a fruit of a palm tree, Phoenix dactylifera. I love dates so much. We have dried cherries, 1/3 of a cup of dried cherries. These are dark black cherries, and they are so delicious when they're dried like this. We have blueberries, papaya, macadamia nuts, pecans, and all kinds of grains. In this bowl, 1½ cups of dried oats. This is just regular oatmeal, ground very fine in the food processor. To that, we add 3 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. Everything here is very, very healthy, found in the health food stores. 2 tablespoons of oat bran, in addition to the oatmeal. 2 tablespoons of wheat germ. I love wheat germ. It reminds me of my father. Every single morning he had a ½ cup of wheat germ with non-fat milk. Cinnamon, a half a teaspoon, goes right in. A half a teaspoon of salt. The black cherries. A half a cup of chopped toasted pecans. A half a cup of ground toasted pecans. Just grind these in the food processor. A quarter cup of finely ground macadamia nuts, which are also lightly toasted, and a quarter of a cup of just coarsely chopped macadamia nuts. So you're getting macadamia nuts, pecans, and you have different textures, coarse and fine. Third of a cup of papaya, coarsely chopped. A third of a cup of dried blueberries. These are the little Maine blueberries, so you don't have to chop those. So this is basically it. It's a very simple mixture of a lot of things. So you have to do a lot of shopping. But if you have it, make sure you keep your oat bran and your flaxseed in tightly covered containers in the freezer to keep them absolutely fresh. So now, let's see, the dates are plumped up. You can drain them. Remember, no sugars in these bars. Just the natural sugars from all these delicious sweet fruits. So you can put this right into the food processor with the honey. And you might have to use a little bit of that liquid. And add a quarter of a cup of liquid from the dates. That should be enough. Yes. So what you're really doing is breaking up the fiber of the dates and making it into a nice paste. If you looked hard enough, you probably could find date paste. But it's so easy to make your own. There, so. So this is actually pretty dry. I'm going to add a little bit more of the date liquid. Just to make this moist enough so that I can press it into a prepared baking pan. Press this nicely into your parchment-lined baking pan. Looks so good. And this will bake in a preheated 350-degree oven until the center is firm and the edges are golden, about 20 to 25 minutes. Press firmly and get it right into the oven. Set your timer. So who knew that something this healthy could taste so good? I hope you've enjoyed today's show, and don't forget to tune into the next episode of Martha Bakes. Bake these for your next hike. Combine 6 tablespoons of butter with 1/3 cup dark brown sugar and a ½ cup of granulated sugar. Stir in 1 egg and a teaspoon of vanilla. Stir in a cup of flour along with ½ a teaspoon of baking soda and salt. Add 1 cup semi-sweet chocolate chips. Transfer the dough to a buttered 10-inch cast iron skillet. Bake at 350 degrees until golden brown. Let cool 5 minutes before serving this giant cookie.